The Old Republic, as an era, is perhaps the most difficult one to talk about. It is, without a doubt, my absolute favorite, however it has a lot going on. Though only a handful of stories touch on this period, it is incredibly deep and expansive. What the Old Republic does, better than any other era, is that it has a truly grand sense of scale. Maybe not so much in how the conflicts play out per se, though the Mandalorian Wars are nuts, but rather how each conflict, and the characters central to said conflict, impact future events hundreds, if not thousands of years down the line. Hello everyone, I'm Boofire191, and welcome to What Makes the Old Republic Great. Before going forward, I need to divide the Old Republic into 4 distinct pieces: the Ancient Republic, the Classic Republic, the Neo-Old Republic, pardon the name, and the Dark Age. Though these periods are all technically within the same era and work well together, trying to tackle them as a monolith will make me want to shoot myself. Basically, the division marks periods of time which are radically different from one another and are often separated by a span of a few hundred to a few thousand years. To define my terms, the age of the Ancient Republic are the events preceding the Great Sith War, which include the Second Great Schism of the Jedi and the Great Hyperspace War. The age of the Classic Republic, however, would be the events leading up to the Great Sith War, like the Freedinad Uprising, to the events of Knights of the Old Republic 2, while the Neo-Old Republic would be events immediately leading up to and including the Old Republic MMO. The Dark Age, on the other hand, is a bit more nebulous, and at the very least starts with the Fourth Great Schism of the Jedi and ends with the Seventh Battle of Ruzan. As those two names would imply, things got crazy. Though there is very little written on it, the Ancient Republic is the era at its absolute weirdest, and I love it. Both the Jedi and the Republic itself have this look and feel to them that is both alien but familiar. Though we can see what they will one day become, it is very clear that the galaxy isn't the one we know. It's a primordial age, if you will, and a time of exploration for not only those in the setting, but for the viewer as well. With one glance at the era's equipment and technology, it's abundantly clear how rickety and fragile things are. Case in point being the Proto-Saber, a lightsaber that needs an external power pack to run, as well as the starships, which have a bizarre, almost sailboat look to them. There's a clear sense that technology, relatively speaking, is still rather primitive and developing, and it is this sense of development which is present throughout the entire Old Republic era, be it in regards to tech or people and organizations. The best and perhaps easiest example to talk about in this particular regard would be the Jedi Order. Granted, the Sith change far more drastically, however, that's a mess I don't want to deal with for my own sanity's sake because, Jesus Christ. Come the transition to the Neo-Old Republic to the Dark Age, things just stop making sense. The Empire and the Sith along with it get booted out of existence and are replaced by Dark Jedi after the Fourth Great Schism, because that keeps happening. During the Ancient Republic, little is known about the Jedi. However, they seem far more lax than even their classic KOTOR counterparts, if Tales of the Jedi is anything to go by. Though the Order isn't militant, it sends off watchmen and other knights to keep the peace across the galaxy. The rule that only children or the very young can be trained doesn't seem to exist, and the Jedi can marry. Now, out of universe, the explanation for why this is the case comes down to the fact that Tales of the Jedi completed its run before Episode 1 was released in 1999. In universe, however, it's a different story. After Exar Kun, Ula Keldroma, and countless other Jedi fell to the dark side, sparking the Great Sith War, the Order decided to clamp down on those still alive and reform. Marriage was heavily restricted, only young individuals could be trained barring unique circumstances, and other measures were put into place, thus leading to the order we see come Knights of the Old Republic 1. Now this sudden change was done in response to all those that fell to the dark side. Though the Jedi would see more stability immediately following this, it wouldn't last long. As alluded to by Bastila and other members of the Council across both KOTOR 1 and 2, the Jedi Order as a whole decided to stay out of the Mandalorian Wars due to, in part, what happened to Exar Kun. Because of the Council's inaction, Revin and several other knights went rogue before eventually falling to the dark side, kicking off the Jedi Civil War. Then, because of the Jedi Civil War and all the conflicts which preceded it, the Order's numbers fell to a near unsustainable level, where they were then hunted down by assassins and some pretty crazy-ass Sith Lords, bringing about the First Jedi Purge. After the Exile brought it back from the brink, however, the Order grew in size and power, where it then faced off against the resurgent Sith Empire during the age of the Neo-Old Republic. I still hate that name. Though the culture of the Jedi was just as strict as it was in KOTOR 1, they had become more militant, employing battle armor and actively leading troops across decades of constant conflict. Finally, come the Dark Age and a couple thousand years of constant warfare, the Jedi had grown into what can only be described as a knightly order. Jedi lords which governed whole planets existed. Battle armor and leading soldiers was the norm. Overall, the once band of peacekeepers had become a militant society. If the Jedi of the Ancient Republic, or even the Classic Republic, saw their Dark Age counterparts, they would seem alien, as if they were something else entirely. This development of a society, of a culture, on such a scale is something inherently unique to the Old Republic. Unlike other eras, it has the time to change both gradually and organically. Instead of an event which directly forces the Jedi to change, the world in which their order resides in shapes it over the passage of time. Now this idea extends to beyond just the Jedi. Like I mentioned earlier, the Sith change quite a bit as well, so do the Mandalorians and several other galactic cultures. However, the catalysts that initiate said change is what, to me, sets the Old Republic apart from other eras, the people that live during it. Unlike almost every other era, barring very early rise of the Empire and Legacy, the Old Republic lacks a central figure, an individual whose story is central to the state of the galaxy changing. From Episode 1 to the Dark Times, you have Anakin and Palpatine shaping the setting. From Episode 4 onward, you have Luke, Leia, and their children. The Old Republic is an odd case in that, though it has individuals who fulfill a similar function, they don't stick around as long as those from other eras. To demonstrate what I'm trying to explain, let's take a quick look at the poster child of the Old Republic, Revin. Though he is a pivotal figure in both the Mandalorian Wars and the Jedi Civil War, once his story is finished, he either disappears or takes a back seat. Granted, he does things in the Old Republic MMO, but he still isn't the main focus of the game. Your character is. The tale of the Old Republic isn't Revan's tale, but rather one in which the Jedi contributes to like so many others, be it Exar Kun, Ula Keldroma, the Jedi Exile, so on and so forth. Throughout this era, more so than any other, the actions of someone from long ago will impact and shape the future of another character. Freda Nad set Exar Kun down his path toward the dark side. The wars started by Exar Kun made the Jedi Order skittish when it came to the Mandalorians, prompting Revan to go rogue and eventually fall. This fall then led to the Holocron, which gave Darth Bane the idea for the Rule of Two. The tale that spans the Old Republic was not woven by one of the four individuals mentioned, but by all of them. The era doesn't belong to any one person. It isn't shaped mostly by the decisions of one man, but by numerous individuals across the span of thousands of years. This aspect of the Old Republic gives the galaxy a depth, a richness virtually unrivaled when compared to the later eras of Star Wars, and gives the era in question room to experiment, to do crazy shit. Because there aren't individuals like Vader, Palpatine, Luke, and the rest who can't die, or that have a past and a future which can't be messed with, the Old Republic has the freedom to do whatever it wants with its main characters. The reason KOTOR 2's deconstruction of the Force and the setting itself works and is beloved by the fanbase, as opposed to The Last Jedi, which is divisive to say the least, comes down to the fact that Kreia and the Jedi Exile could be written to make that difficult setup for a narrative work without stepping on anyone's toes. Nothing had to be stretched or altered. A character didn't have to suddenly change, because the setting itself already had an avenue for the story to progress organically. By working within the confines of the era, using its lore and events, a narrative could be crafted that not only expanded upon these moments, but showed them in a different light. After two rather recent and horrific wars brought on by Force sensitives, a potential viewer, or in this case, gamer, could easily understand why an individual like Kreia would come to the decision she did. Same holds true for the Exile being the last of the Jedi. Since the era is known for countless characters taking the spotlight, no one batted an eye when the pair took the spotlight. Also, since the Old Republic, more so than most, is filled with unknowns, the revelations concerning wounds in the Force don't feel all that strange. Okay, that's a bit of a lie. They are certainly strange, however they don't feel out of place. Because far less is understood about the Force than in later eras, it makes sense for those in the setting to run across things they don't understand consistently. The characters in question are discovering it alongside the audience. They don't have ancient Jedi knowledge to, well, fall back on, because they are the ancient Jedi knowledge. Outside of the overall stellar writing associated with the era, excluding the MMO, which I have a lot of mixed feelings about, it is this core idea which makes the Old Republic what it is. Unlike other points in time, which are more Skywalker-centric, the Old Republic is a period of exploration and discovery, of development. It's a tale not driven by the actions of a few, but of a many, whose deeds echo across the expanse of time, sometimes in unexpected ways. There's an inherent flexibility not quite present in other eras, which allows writers to try new things and grow the mythos organically. If I'm being honest, I think it might be for that reason why I love the Old Republic era as much as I do. When I sit down to play KOTOR, read the Bane trilogy, or dive into Tales of the Jedi once more, it feels like I'm cracking open a history book where mythology was reality. There's so many figures, moments in time, and ideas which capture the imagination, which make me want to learn more. Points in time, motivations which feed back into one another that make the galaxy feel real, lived in, massive. Though other eras have their strengths, it is my belief this is what makes the Old Republic great. But with that said, guys, I've been Bufar191. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought down in the comments down below. I'll see all of you next time. Goodbye.